Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. This is a brand new What If. What if Tanjiro had godly durability? I was kind of debating on how I wanted to say this, how I wanted to kind of approach this idea. I was like, you know what? Might as well just call it godly durability. We've done videos like this in the past with the idea of like a godly type ability. And this time around, I felt like, you know what, Tanjiro himself could use for a hell of a durability stat upgrade type of thing. And I think right there, that could be perfect for someone like Tanjiro, especially when we're dealing with what he has to deal with, like, you know, on a day-to-day basis in terms of a demon slayer. Now, with that said, if you guys enjoy, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoy. And yeah, that's all I really got to say. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Check the links in the description, Discord, Spotify, all that stuff, membership, whatever. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I want to get right into it. So let's get it. Tanjiro Kamado and his life goes pretty much exactly the same. But the only difference is that at a young age, he actually never gets hurt. Like, genuinely never gets hurt. Now, even the scar on his face actually comes in an interesting point. Because when he gets the scar on his face, he does, you know, go through the same thing that happens normally. But when it hits his face, he doesn't even feel hurt at all. And that's when they learn about what he can do. Now, this scar does appear, but it appears in more of a kind of like paint-like area on his head. It doesn't look like a scar, let's just say that. It looks like an actual, like if someone drew on his face like a paint or some sort of thing, right, on his forehead, but it's something that is permanent. Like, he can't take it off. Now, this isn't a Demon Slayer mark. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not a Demon Slayer mark, but it is like a scar, but not quite like a scar. It seems as if it's something that just showed up on his face after the burn, but it's not necessarily a burn mark. Now, this is when they realize Tanjiro's durability, or his ability to take hits, is ridiculous, because they're thinking, how are you not crying? How are you not hurt? And he's like, I don't know. Like, it didn't hurt. Like, yeah, I felt it, but it didn't hurt. Like, it's not like he doesn't have pain, right? He feels these things, but his durability and his ability to take a hit, or, you know, in this case, take boiling water to the face, I guess, but his ability to do that is so high that he doesn't necessarily feel the pain. Now, he feels a tiny bit. It's as if he felt a warm sensation on his body, a slight warm sensation. That was all he felt. But other than that, he doesn't feel pain. Now, or he doesn't feel any, like, you know, a large amount of pain is really a more accurate thing to say. Now, as we progress, the next time we would see this is when his family would pass on to the afterlife. Because when he tries to help Nezuko, he tries to basically save her and stuff like that. They would, obviously, this whole thing would happen with Giyu, and the whole thing would happen where Tanjiro would attack him and try to show that he can, you know, defend his sister and throw the axe in the air. And when Giyu would hit him, he actually wouldn't knock him out. Giyu would watch as Tanjiro would stand back up, and Tanjiro would continue fighting. And Giyu was like, what the hell? Like, how are you not out for the count? And Giyu realizes that he needs to put him to sleep, like, you know, knock him out via some sort of pressure point. Like, that wasn't good enough. Like, it wasn't good enough to hit him where he did. So he hits him as hard as he can, basically, in a pressure point. And when he hits him in that pressure point, Tanjiro would be knocked out, but he wouldn't be knocked out for long. And this would lead to Nezuko obviously protecting her brother and stuff like that, and leading to Tanjiro being sent off to Urokodaki. But Giyu would tell Urokodaki as well through a letter, like, whatever this kid is, well, you need to hone him to its utmost ability, because he took a hit from a Hashira and got back up and was still swinging, and it took a lot to get him down. And, well, let's just say Urokodaki sees this to its fullest when he watches Tanjiro fight against the temple demon. Yeah, when he fights against the temple demon, the demon would hit Tanjiro on multiple occasions, but Tanjiro would allow himself to get hit to land hits of his own. And in doing so, this gives him openings that he wouldn't have had in the first place. And Urokodaki is thinking to himself, whatever this kid is, we need to know more about it, and I need to learn more about it. And over the course of the next 2 years or so of literal training, that's what he starts learning, right? Learning about how strong he is, his durability, and stuff along those lines. He tests Tanjiro as well. How durable is he really? I mean, these are things that he wanted to test and things he begins to test. And those are things that he starts learning about Tanjiro and learning about what he can really take and what he can really, like, block and not get hurt and stuff along those lines. And eventually he finds that limit. He finds where Tanjiro is in terms of that limit of power that he can really, shrug off, and the power that he can tank, and the power that, doesn't end up hurting him in the long run. And he learns about these things and is able to push Tanjiro pretty damn far because of the fact of this. Yes, training is difficult, but not having to worry about legitimately getting hurt is a totally other thing. I mean, Tanjiro is able to legitimately not have to worry about, necessarily getting injured, to a high degree or something along those lines. He doesn't have to worry about getting hurt really badly or something to that extent. He doesn't. He still, trains responsibly, but at the same time, even Urokodaki realizes quickly, like, holy, like, this kid, I mean, he seems to not have an issue with kind of just absolutely tanking hits, or, like, let's just say they're training together and Urokodaki hits him with a sword. Tanjiro is able to still deduce that he messed up and still deduce, like, okay, I got to do better there. I got to make sure I do better there. But he's able to legitimately keep on pushing and push his body to completely different limits. Now, obviously, we don't know the limit of Tanjiro's, durability, but we do know is that he can train and prepare a lot longer, a lot more, and a lot more efficiently because of this. And that right there is something to really, really behold, because Tanjiro takes his training to the next level, mastering water breathing, mastering concentration breathing in a far quicker succession. And even Urokodaki starts kind of teaching him other techniques, at least involving breathing, and even kind of gives him an intro into concentration breathing constant. Now, obviously, he's not going to get to that point just yet, but in terms of kind of where he's at, he's a lot further than the original Tanjiro, and he would still train with Sabito and Makomo, at least the spirits of them, and of course would push his training further and further and further. Now, after that training is done and he is prepared, he goes off to the final selection. And the final selection is where Tanjiro begins to thrive, because when a demon would actually find a way to sneak up on Tanjiro, he would attack him and try to kind of hurt him or try to hit him. But Tanjiro would just be able to shrug off the attack, kind of rolling with it. And as he takes the hits, he would then slice the neck off of the demon like nothing, giving himself an opening via the demon's attack. That is the thing, right? When you believe that you hit somebody clean, like you are going to basically injure them brutally, well, you kind of leave your guard down. And Tanjiro uses this as a way of counter-striking, basically striking back at the demon or striking back at whatever creature is in front of him. But obviously it's a demon, right? He's striking back at a demon. So he counter-strikes his way through, and the hand demon, it's no different. The hand demon tries to strike Tanjiro. Now, Tanjiro obviously can keep up in terms of speed, and he tries to dodge things, but he would see that there's a punch coming his way that he can't necessarily avoid. So he kind of avoids it, like he avoids it just a little bit, and when he avoids it just a little bit, he kind of finds his way to the neck of the demon by doing this, as he takes a slight hit, and then he basically gives another one that is way stronger than the demon's. Now, Tanjiro does slightly feel this one. He's like, okay, so it seems like the hit, I can take a hit, but there's some demons that are definitely going to make me feel the hit from time to time. Now, this one didn't hurt necessarily, but he damn well felt it. Like, he could feel the punch for the most part and what happened. But this demon, I mean, it was obvious that he was somewhat powerful. And yes, the defeat of the hand demon is, and well, was inevitable. But at the same time, it kind of opened up the eyes of Tanjiro to the idea that, okay, like, I gotta be somewhat aware, because I can't just let myself get hit so hard that I feel pain the way I don't know how to really feel it for the first time. But at the same time, he understands, like, there's going to be limits, and maybe this durability can be pushed to even new heights as he continues. Now, after Tanjiro finishes with the final selection, defeating a good amount of the demons and helping out a lot of various demon slayers, he would get his Nichiren ore, go back to Urokodaki, get his blade, get set up with Nezuko, and then embark on his first mission. Now, obviously, he would face off with the Swamp Demon. This fight would go eerily similar, if not exactly the same. Now, I will say, on top of that, though, you have to give Tanjiro his credit in terms of being able to eat and tank attacks. So he's able to legitimately eat everything that the Swamp Demon throws his way. Like, even surprise attacks, yes, they are harder to kind of brace for, but overall, the attacks are really nothing. Like, they are genuinely nothing for Tanjiro. Tanjiro would have no issues, legitimately no issues, with dealing with the attacks in that way. He would have no issues with making sure that the attacks are kind of brushed off or blocked to a certain degree, and he's able to just eat them, even slight surprise attacks that could come his way. And with the help of Nezuko, they do eventually find the kill on the Swamp Demon, and they find it easier, right? Obviously, it's going to be easier. And during this time, Tanjiro continuously gets better at his concentration breathing constant. He gets better at his techniques, and these are things he works on just as they continue on, right, throughout, like, you know, the days and throughout the nights and stuff along those lines. Because at the end of the day, he does have time to kind of train and prepare from time to time, but obviously there are things that Tanjiro needs to do, like sleep and eat and stuff along those lines. But yeah, with that said, Tanjiro continues forward with his next mission, which would be his first encounter with Muzan. Now, after that encounter, yes, he would meet Lady Tamayao and Yusuro. They would talk about, you know, what Tanjiro is, but also if there's a way to cure his sister Nezuko. Curing her is his number one goal, so that's where he's at. Like, he's like, I want that. That's all I need. I want to cure my sister. That is the main thing. That is really the only thing, and he'll do anything to make sure that happens. In which, obviously, they have that conversation. Lady Tamayao does speak on the idea of getting some blood from Tanjiro, because she believes that whatever is making him be able to be so durable may allow her to fight off the infection of being a demon. And these are things that he hasn't really thought about, but things that could potentially be helpful. But he also brings up the fact that he may be too durable to the point where you can't get like a needle or anything else through his skin, in which she's like, yeah, you're right, maybe that idea is kind of off the board, but still, it is something to think about. Now, eventually a ball would come flying through the place or the house, but Tanjiro would basically just block it and smack it away, in which Lady Tamayao sees this and is like, so you didn't feel that at all? Like, that didn't hurt you? And when she shakes his head, he's like, no, it really didn't. And he kind of keeps them, like, you know, at bay or safe from the balls that are getting kind of flying through the area. And eventually he would face off with Susumaru and Yahaba. And yeah, this fight isn't too difficult. I mean, Tanjiro is able to outpace them, especially because his training was a lot better than the original. But on top of that, even if they do sneak in an attack, Tanjiro is able to just tank it, and also tank attacks for other people that kind of need a bit of a defensive barrier. And that right there is something that Tanjiro realizes very quickly, that he's not just a demon slayer, he's not just an attacker. He could play the role of a defensive kind of blocking type of durable shield in a way. Like, he could be the shield for demon slayers alike. Now, obviously, he can't be a shield always when he has literally nobody with him and only himself to slay demons. But at the same time, it is something to think about, and that is something that Tanjiro definitely wants to keep on his mind, is the idea that, well, you legitimately can slay demons, yes, but you could also be helpful in like a support aspect for various other demon slayers. And soon, very, very soon, Susumaru and Yahaba would fall very short in defeating Tanjiro, and Tanjiro would slay them with his mastery, basically, of water breathing and a progressive upgrade to concentration breathing constant. Yeah, it's not perfected by now, obviously. He's still working on it, still training, and he has a little bit more preparations than he ever had like early on. So he's definitely more prepared for it. And eventually they're defeated and let Itami out, and Yushiro tell Tanjiro and Nezuko that, hey, look, so this is what's going to have to happen. You're basically going to have to kind of get the blood of the 12 Kizuki, or various demons that are of that level and strength, and you're gonna have to send it my way, and I'll do some studying, and I'll try to figure things out for you, and I'll try to do this, try to do that. And these are things that definitely matters in the grand scheme of things, and these are things that are very important to Tanjiro specifically as well, because he's like, yeah, that is great to hear. We're going to definitely have to figure that all out, and we're going to have to get as much information as we possibly can, and that's exactly what they're going to end up doing. Get as much information as you possibly can, get as much ideas as you possibly can, and eventually come up with a full-fledged plan to save his sister, aka cure her from being a demon. Now, after all this is said and done, and after obviously that conversation is fulfilled, he would then head off, and he would, well, obviously he would obviously meet up once again with Zenitsu like the original, and he would peel him off of like the girl or this woman or this, this lady that is like why are you acting this way around me? I'm just trying to like leave. I'm trying to just take off. I'm not trying to get freaking berated and yelled at and said, oh, you need to be my wife and this and that, yada yada. And he's like, or she's like, please just leave me alone. And Tanjiro peels him off of her basically, and is like, you need to come with me. We're gonna go on missions. And that's exactly what ends up happening. They go on a nearby mission, which would obviously be a nearby mission to the typical thing of the typical thing of kind of going off and going to the mansion and stuff along those lines. They would head off and kind of see what's going on over at that mansion. And when they arrive, they do see the two siblings, and obviously the siblings are going to go in trying to find their brother. Tanjiro and Zenitsu, they have to handle their way through as well, and Tanjiro would eventually face off with Kyogai. And yeah, Kyogai is a challenge, right, to an extent, but Kyogai isn't really able to damage Tanjiro the way he wants to. And this is the first time a demon is like genuinely upset and freaking out about the fact that Tanjiro's not taking damage, because here's the thing, this is somebody who is pretty strong. Now, I wouldn't say he's some insane powerful demon by any means, but he was a former member of the 12 Kizuki, so he's no joke to a large extent. And he starts realizing like, holy crap, this guy is not dying. Like, go away right now. And he gets really frustrated. When frustration creeps in, mistakes creep in as well, and Tanjiro is able to defeat Kyogai, frustrating the hell out of him, and then eventually slicing the head off of him. And the eventual defeat of other demons within this mansion happened with Inosuke and Zenitsu, and eventually Tanjiro and Inosuke would get into a bit of a scuffle, which obviously that would be over Nezuko, because of he's attacking Nezuko's box and stuff along those lines. Now, with that said, this little squab is not fair. Tanjiro legitimately just eats a bunch of punches, throws punches back, and even with Inosuke dodging, yeah, Tanjiro's like, I do not care. Like, I do not care that you're dodging these. Like, I'm going to eventually hit you. And that's exactly what he does, right? He eventually hits him and starts absolutely putting the beating on him initially, and eventually he just gives up and he's like, okay, like, I'm sorry, I did not think you would do all this. I did not think like it would end up this way. Like we're good, right? Like we're good, right? Like we don't have to. And he's like yeah, sure, we're good. In which obviously Inosuke, he's back and forth with his ideas from time to time of like, the idea of like them being okay or them, being like this or being that. And obviously he'd be like, okay, well, as your leader, follow me and we're going to be going to our next mission. And when Tanjiro's like, okay, well, it seems like this guy is it's a little everywhere, but that's okay. I mean, he's still nice to Inosuke. And eventually they would head off to a nearby kind of house they would get some food. They would get some rest and stuff like that, leading them to their next mission the very next night, which would be out at Mount Natagumo, which would be with a ton of demon slayers in very, very bad places, or they're already defeated and, well, killed, right? And at the end of the day, Tanjiro is going to try his absolute best to do what he can to help out, to save people, to do anything he possibly can to save and or help as many people as possible. This would obviously have him face off with the normal people he does face off with, but it doesn't really change the outcomes of these fights. Like, his durability doesn't really change much here. Now, the one thing that obviously does change, like, he defeats the mother spider demon and stuff like that. The main thing that would change would be that he could take the hits from the father spider demon pretty easily. Like, it wouldn't be too crazy to really take the hits from it. But the issue is here that it kind of still sends him flying. So yeah, he ends up getting hit by the father spider demon and it sends him flying elsewhere, where this is when he would eventually fight against Rui. And when he would fight against Rui is when he would be putting his durability for the first time to basically a high level test. Like, this is a test. This is a test for Tanjiro in terms of how durable is he really, right? How durable is Tanjiro really? And he wants to see like how durable he really can go. Well, this is going to be the chance to see it, because Rui, yeah, he is pretty damn strong. Now, he's not strong like some upper moon or anything like that, but he is pretty damn strong for this version of Tanjiro. Now, he is, I will say, close to Rui, if not even with Rui at this point, because he had better training. So he's basically keeping up, if not, kind of putting it to Rui a little bit, especially when he starts figuring out how to utilize the Hinokami Kagura, where he starts really stretching the battlefield and really showing what he can do. And his upped durability allows for openings that normally he wouldn't actually be able to get. Rui starts realizing too, like, hey, this kid is tanking some of these attacks. Like, initially I thought that he was just slicing through them, or he's avoiding them, dodging them, whatever you want to say. But Rui's starting to realize he's not doing any of the sort. He's actually tanking them. And that right there is definitely not something that makes him very happy to see, because he starts really understanding, like, okay, so whatever this kid is doing, I mean, he is tanking, he is shrugging them off. He is really eating these attacks, but he doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. Because, let's be honest, a large bit of your stamina is definitely going to be sapped when you take further damage, when you take damage throughout a fight. So his stamina is not being kind of drained to the degree that Rui would be really expecting. And it does leave him open for strikes utilizing the Hinokami Kagura, leading to him cutting off the neck of Rui. But obviously Rui would find ways to kind of, save himself by legitimately cutting his own neck off and stuff along those lines, because Tanjiro's just not fast enough just yet to defeat him and put him down for good. But eventually Giyu would show up, defeat Rui, Tanjiro would get the blood he needs and all that stuff, and eventually would kind of have a face-off, which isn't the craziest face-off, with Kanao to defend, well, Nezuko, right? Nezuko's running away, And the funny part is, Tanjiro this time around doesn't get knocked out. Like, he genuinely is fighting with Kanao and taking hits from her. Like, she kicks him in the head, he eats it, right? He doesn't get knocked out. He like grabs her leg and makes sure that she can't run away, pulls her back, and doesn't allow her to like try to keep up with Nezuko. And Tanjiro takes some pretty nasty hits through this, and he actually is able to shrug them off for the most part. And Kanao is in pretty dire shock here. Like, what is going on? Like, I'm hitting him, but he's not falling. Like, he's not moving. He's not budging. She doesn't know what's going on, but obviously Tanjiro does. And eventually they would hear the crows say that Tanjiro and Nezuko are to be brought to the Demon Slayer mansion. Now, obviously that happens. They're brought to the mansion. They're brought over to the Butterfly Mansion, and are kind of talked to by the Hashira, and they talk about Nezuko being a demon and blah blah blah. And obviously the Wind Hashira would do his whole stint, and that headbutt would probably be hurting even more because it didn't really affect Tanjiro as much as it definitely affected the Wind Hashira, in fact, or Saname. Now, after that headbutt, obviously the master of all the demon slayers, Ubuyashiki, would explain to them what happened, what's going to happen with Urokodaki, talking about Giyu and Urokodaki, saying like they will commit Sambuku if Nezuko does hurt a human, kill a human, eat a human, whatever, right? And this would lead to Tanjiro finally and Nezuko being accepted into the accepted fully into the Demon Slayer Corps. Obviously, they were technically, or Tanjiro was technically, but Nezuko not so much. But this is when he starts his rehabilitation training, and since he had that head start already, and also his durability allows him to train longer hours, he sees pretty large growths in his like abilities, his strength, and just basic techniques that he needs to learn. Concentration breathing, no problem, right? Or concentration breathing constant, no problem. And he continues pushing as much as possible. But one thing he can't push without more information is definitely sun breathing or the Hinokami Kagura. So obviously he needs to get more information from Rengoku. Now, eventually he would go to Rengoku, meet him for the first time, and they would face off with Enmu. But things don't change with the Enmu fight, like at all. This fight would go exactly the same, if not just a little bit better for the Demon Slayers here, and for the group of Inosuke, Zenitsu, Rengoku, and Tanjiro. And this would lead us to the Akaza fight, right? The Akaza versus Rengoku fight. How does this change? Obviously, the initial idea was to have Akaza go over here to, end Tanjiro. That was the idea. End Tanjiro. Get rid of him, right? And Tanjiro is basically told to stay on the back seat as Rengoku would fight. But Tanjiro doesn't see this as a good idea, believing that he needs to help, that he needs to actually be a part of this fight. And eventually, that's exactly what he'll do. He goes in to face off against Akaza with Rengoku, and he plays a more defensive aspect of fighting. It seems like when Akaza would find an opening against Rengoku, Tanjiro would close it shut. And Akaza would be pissed by this, because there's one thing that messes with him. The defensive aspect that Tanjiro is approaching the fight with isn't giving off much, if not any, of a fighting spirit. It seems to be just solely defensive and solely kind of like a background type of idea. Now, it gives off a tiny bit, but Akaza doesn't have enough to where he can sense everything, pinpoint everything, understand where the defense is coming from, and stuff along those lines. And with Tanjiro basically being the shield for Rengoku, this allows them to keep up with Akaza to a certain extent, and also give them an idea of kind of what Akaza is doing and what he's trying to do in the long run. And it seems like he's, obviously fighting, utilizing his fighting spirit, but to an extent they don't know this even just yet, but they know some sort of thing involving it. They know something that is involving whatever his spirit, fighting spirit, his ability to really recognize techniques and recognize where they're coming from. This makes him strong, and they kind of understand that. They just don't know 100% how it works. But this does lead to Akaza getting frustrated, pissed off, and even landing a punch on Tanjiro pretty damn clean. And when he does, Tanjiro would feel that. He would feel it. I mean, it would hurt, like, to an extent, but it wouldn't blow his head off. And that right there is definitely a good sign. He would get up with a mark on his face, and Akaza's thinking, how the hell is he still standing? I know he's not strong. I know he's nowhere near the strength of someone like this guy, Rengoku. So how the hell is he getting back up? And yeah, he defends Rengoku to its highest degree, and eventually they would actually wait until the sun rises and Akaza would escape, but it wouldn't change the fact that Rengoku would actually live here because of Tanjiro's defensive responsibility to helping his teammate, or his fellow Demon Slayer, from actually dying or kicking the bucket. And that right there surprises Rengoku and really makes him want to mentor and or kind of show him, like, you know, anything they know about sun breathing. And that is what takes up a ton of the time here initially, right? He learns more about sun breathing, trains in it, tries to figure it out, tries to, you know, figure the ins and outs of it. And eventually Rengoku even trains with Tanjiro, like one-on-one. And Rengoku realizes that he might just be the perfect person to train with. Someone that is full on durability, someone who nobody needs to hold back against, because guess what? If he gets hit, it's okay. He's not going to get sliced into pieces, because he tanked a hit from Akaza. He tanked a hit. I mean, it hurt, damn well hurt, but he was able to tank a hit from a demon of an Upper Moon, right? Upper Moon 3. So that really, really surprises Rengoku, and Rengoku starts training with him quite a bit, trying to get better, trying to up his strength, and also try to make Tanjiro better as a fighter as well, ensuing in him getting far, far better in a quick succession. Rengoku even tells the other Hashira that Tanjiro might be the best training partner that they could ask for, and most of them, well, they kind of stay away from that idea. There's obviously a couple of them that are interested in it. Now, one being Muchiro. Giyu would be interested, but he's a little awkward as well. So they're both interested to an extent. And the rest of them, maybe the Stone Hashira might be a little bit interested in what he has to do, or what Tanjiro can do. But overall, not really a big fan. So this would lead to Tanjiro actually training with Muchiro a little bit, training with Giyu a little bit, if that's what obviously Giyu wants. Giyu kind of does his own thing and, you know, kind of is a bit awkward. Shout out to Giyu, of course. We all love Giyu Tomioka, but he's a bit awkward. And this would obviously lead them to the eventual kind of the whole thing with the entertainment district after a large sum of training that Tanjiro would ensue and go throughout this time. Now, after the idea of, like, you know, okay, we're going to act up as wives, or we're going to pretend to be wives, and we're going to go into the entertainment district, stuff along those lines, Tanjiro would finally and eventually face off with Daki for the first time, and he would be way stronger at this point. Like, and his durability makes it so her attacks just literally bounce right off Tanjiro, and they don't stand a chance. Tanjiro absolutely outclasses Daki. Now, Gyutaro is a different prospect because Gyutaro uses also sharp weaponry too, but at the same time, he was able to tank a hit and not get your head blown off by Akaza. So he's able to, for the most part, tank hits and help with Tengen actually to like actually give him openings to actually slay Gyutaro if they eventually find it. But that opening would eventually open up for Tanjiro, where he would find the opening, awaken his own Demon Slayer mark, and slice the neck off of Gyutaro, as well as Zenitsu and Inosuke would slice the neck off of, obviously, Daki, and the defeat of the Upper Moon 6 would happen and would ensue. And what's really, really crazy, something absolutely insane to think about, is that Tanjiro is a large component of defeating the first Upper Moon in a very, very long time. This is no joke of a demon, and they were able to defeat him And on top of that, Tengen was able to see firsthand what Tanjiro brings to the table. And on top of that, he has just awakened his Demon Slayer mark and is now pushing himself beyond the imagination. And what I'm say that the person I'm referring to is still Tanjiro, not Tengen. That not enough happened, or not enough ensued for him to actually awaken his Demon Slayer mark. This in this what if scenario. Now, with that said, he would obviously head back to the mansion, continue training, pushing his body, and continue preparing for everything that you could possibly imagine. Various Hashira continue training with him. Muchiro actually enjoys being around Tanjiro. Like, it's kind of, there's a respectful back and forth with Tanjiro now, and he actually enjoys being around him and likes him quite a bit. Very like friendly to him now because of a showing of power and showing that Tanjiro is like really strong. So Muchiro respects that, and he actually finds Tanjiro to be very amusing in terms of, how happy he is all the time, and the laughter and stuff like that, and his positivity and along those lines. And those are things that he really respects and really looks highly upon. And all these trainings with the Hashira just add up. I mean, they really add up with making Tanjiro a more potent fighter and a more kind of or just better in general at actually fighting, swordsmanship, his ability to utilize sun breathing and stuff along those lines. And it's got to the point where Tanjiro is pretty damn strong. He is way past his original self, and going to the swordsmith's village is definitely helpful as well. Now, I will say there'll probably be a little bit of a funny thing where Tanjiro probably has snapped quite a few swords, maybe even more than normal, because of his durability, right? He's able to block attacks and stuff like that, so he doesn't really think too hard about what his blade is doing in terms of like, oh, is it gonna get shattered? Is it this? Is it that? And obviously, Tanjiro, he gets a earful for the idea of him losing or getting his swords broken. But Tanjiro's like, whatever. Like, I mean, just do what you gotta do type of thing. And eventually he does get some training in with the Yorichi Type 0. Muchiro even kind of trains with him from time to time there. And Muchiro is getting far stronger as well at this point too, to a large extent. And eventually the arrival of Gyoko and Hantengu would ensue. And Tanjiro would really not have any threats with taking on the likes of Hantengu. Now, it would be difficult because of how many versions of them keep popping up, but in terms of just strength and tanking hits, Tanjiro's able to tank those hits for the most part. And especially with him getting stronger, the addition of concentration breathing constant and all of these things, it has allowed him to be able to absorb hits way greater, like way better, way more efficient, and all of the above, right? And eventually the defeat of Hantengu would ensue. Same thing with Gyoko, where Muchiro and obviously Mitsuri would awaken their Demon Slayer marks. And obviously the defeat of Gyoko would happen. And as all this kind of wraps up, we do still have an ending with Nezuko conquering the sun. And the reason for this is how kind of stalled out Hantengu's whole fight is, and how long it takes to defeat all the versions of him. Well, mainly the main version, who's like hiding and hard to see, and this and that and this. So it does become pretty difficult, but Nezuko does conquer the sun nonetheless, getting caught in the sun, conquering it. And then eventually the defeat of obviously the two demons would be inevitable. That would ensue. And then Muzan would prepare his hunt to try to get Nezuko. Now, during this time, the Hashira would meet up. They would begin training. They would begin preparing. And Tanjiro has already been training with various Hashira, but this just ups his game even further because it pushes his physical strength to an insane degree. I mean, he is pushing his level higher and higher and higher to the point where he's at a Hashira level by far, but his durability is of a higher ranked demon. borderline an upper moon like durability. Now, he doesn't have the durability in terms of regeneration, but he has the durability of basically being able to eat / tank hits like it is nobody's freaking business. And that is exactly what he does throughout this time, especially after the training is fulfilled, after they head off and eventually face off with Muzan once again, but obviously get sent into the Infinity Castle, and Tanjiro has his date with a fighter that he's fought once before, being that of Akaza. Giyu and Tanjiro facing off with Akaza, and of course Rengoku wanting to help out where he could, but would get stuck fighting and helping out elsewhere. Now, Tanjiro would begin an onslaught towards Akaza, and Akaza would realize quickly that he has grown into an actual fighter, not just a meat shield for a better fighter next to him. But Akaza realizes that he is able to sense his fighting spirit, or Tanjiro's fighting spirit, because of this. But when Tanjiro goes into a more defensive mode, he realizes that he can't really keep up with what Tanjiro is trying to do. Not really feeling it out, not being able to sense it the way he needs to. And this right here would be the moment where Tanjiro would realize how to defeat Akaza, realizing he needs to hide his fighting spirit entirely with defense and move it to offense when he can, but still hiding it away like he's just fully defensively responsible for someone else. And when he does this, eventually an opening would come, and that opening would go straight through the neck of Akaza, and it would slice him and dice him immediately, and this would be the opening they needed. But we all know Akaza would still be alive for a little bit, his body fighting on pure fumes at this point, fighting on pure instinct, but eventually would fall over, would disintegrate, and Tanjiro would watch as Upper Moon 3 would perish at their hands, and they would move their attention to eventually facing off with Muzan Kibutsuji. And this fight right here, a fight with Muzan, will be the test. Tanjiro doesn't just go out of his way to get hit, of course, but he tries his best to avoid it, utilizing all forms of sun breathing in unison. As he's utilizing these things, he is trying his best to stall their way to sunrise. But Muzan himself is thinking, well, Tanjiro, he might be the perfect scapegoat if things go really, really wrong. And what he's thinking is, if things go wrong, things could go really right. And eventually, towards the end of the fight, where the sun is close to rising up and Tanjiro is pacing to the point where Muzan is questioning if this guy has an off switch ever, and if any of his attacks are going to be crucial and critical to the body of Tanjiro, because he is striking him, he is hitting him, and Tanjiro's feeling the pain, but he's not feeling it to the extent of near-death pain or pain that's gonna bleed him out or anything along those lines. And eventually Tanjiro would find his way to defeating Muzan, and he would begin to burn up, or Muzan would begin to burn up. But during this time, Muzan found a way to somewhat kind of absorb Tanjiro, trying to get him to become the demon that he wants so badly. And when they start seeing this and they start realizing this, they start understanding how absolutely effed they are. Because if they can't get this kind of if they can't get the cure within Tanjiro, they might just be screwed beyond belief. But luckily, Lady Tamiya was thinking about this already, knowing that Tanjiro himself, he won't be able to be penetrated with a needle or anything like that. So they have a version of the kind of cure to basically put through his system via anything that he can ingest. If that's through his eyes, if that's through like eye drops in a way, right? If that's through the mouth, or if that's through whatever, right? This is something that is being utilized, and she knows that if this is ingested, it should work the same way even though it's not being, pushed through the bloodstream. Now, with that said, it takes a monumental effort to even slow this guy down, and they're not doing any damage to him in the first place. And eventually, Nezuko would find a way, and Kanao would give the opening, and so many Demon Slayers would do their best to give that opening as well. So when they get him the cure that he needs, he fights through the grip of Muzan, the grasp of the king of all demons, and eventually he breaks free, and he is awake once again, back with the people he cares about. But he sees a lot of people that he hurt, and frankly, this really messes with him. But of course, they tell him this was not his fault. This was Muzan's fault. And we fought to the very end to make sure that this world is safe, and they wouldn't have been able to truly ensure safety without the one and only Tanjiro Kamado. And that right there is an absolute fact. And this world can see generations and generations of safety and flourishment because of not only the Demon Slayers alone, but also because of one singular boy, the chosen one himself, that showed up out of nowhere, known as Tanjiro Kamado. And that is the end of this video. If you guys enjoyed, please show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed this video of what if Tanjiro had godly durability. And if you did, like I said, show some love to the video itself. Now with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.